Saliha, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast today. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Adam?
Good, good. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, it's been a while since we have done a podcast. I'm trying to
Hmm.
think of when it last was, but
Hmm.
we always have good chats. And you mentioned like a few
Yes.
topics that you like to
Hmm.
kind of talk about, like self-love and accepting change and that kind of thing.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes, and I'm grateful for all those moments that we've had a podcast together because I think every time we've come up with a topic that has been very important to us in the time that we spoke about it, So
Mm.
we've always talked about topics such as self-love, new thoughts, our thoughts change our minds, how the world is changing, but we need to look at ourselves first. So yes, very interesting subjects that we have touched upon. And I think today again we will talk a bit about self-love because I think self-love is a process where you're always um, delayering, unlayering yourself, however you might say it. It's a never ending journey. And once you set yourself on that journey, once you decide with yourself, once you make that decision inside, that intention that I want to know myself first before I go out in the world and create that big change, as many of us spiritual empaths, humanitarian people that we always want to go out there and change the world and fix people. But I think we've understood through these conversations that we've had on our podcast that it all starts from here. The intention starts from our hearts, from our heart chakra, from our inner being, our inner light, our energy, where energetically we put ourselves together to this one point and say, we want to change. So it starts from that wanting, that desiring. And then I think, Adam, it goes on to allowing it. So, yes.
Yeah, I think that's a really good points, and I think like you said, it's there's so many layers I think to it, and with self love, it's something that we should all do, we should all practice, and it could be self love is very different for each person. That's okay, and people should try things like find. I say to people, find hobbies, find
Mm,
things that you enjoy doing, and getting to know yourself as a person, getting
yes.
to know who you are, what you like, what you don't like, things that you need to maybe improve on. And I think a lot of it with that self love, it's giving that energy back to yourself, isn't it? Because we can't do the things that we can do at the best of our ability if we're not kind of recharged and feeling our best self. But you have to have that and do what works for you, haven't you? Because I think sometimes might not like part of ourselves, or we might not do certain things for ourselves, maybe because we want to be busy. We um, might not feel like we deserve to do certain things, but that's all kind of part of self love, isn't it? That's getting to know you, doing nice things for yourself, and it's okay to do that.
Yes, it's okay. That's it. That's a very good point. It's very simply said. It's okay to do that. It's okay to be good to yourself. It's okay to tell people that I need time for myself, even though there might be chaos around you. It's okay to have that little me time, as they say, even if you don't see that happening around you. It's okay to ask for it. It's okay to pull your energy out of a situation that seems like it's pulling out your energy and saying, no, I'm going to keep my energy to myself because I can't let outside or the external situation take over me, right? Because we've forgotten this actually as we were as ancient human beings. We knew how to cope with situations better because we used to meditate and we used to keep ourselves in a space before. I know this, I've read this in books, that before going to wars, people used to sit down and meditate with their troops, and they used to sit down and have a conversation and just relax and calm down. It's very important. What I'm trying to say here is very important for us to find that little space, that little time, that little realization point where we can sit down and bring all our energy to one center and make that time ours. And it's okay, right? Because people, the opposite of not being of being okay is not okay, which takes it to the conversation of people calling me time as selfish, right? So instead of saying selfish, what I'm emphasizing is it's okay, which is like saying that it's okay to be selfish, right? Because all our lives, we kind of, I think the way I grew up was the word selfish was put out as a negative word. I can speak for myself because that's how I do it every time. And it's, everybody growing up in different countries, different things that they read, they might have perceived it differently. For me, selfish was a negative word. And it's been a long journey, I think, for the last 3 years, trying to understand this word as a friendly word, as a word that just says what it says, the way you say it, in the context you say it. So if we say we need some time to ourselves and we want to have that little meditation time as a mother, as a person who's working, just take a little 5-minute break to do that little meditation, let's say, it's okay. It's not selfish. So that's something I wanted to put forward to, the idea of taking me time, and people think it's not okay. Good point.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point and good explanation. Because I think, like you said, it could just be that 5 minutes to yourself doing something. It doesn't have to be for, long, long periods of time. Sometimes that short period of time, having a bit of time out, doing some of yourself, meditating. Because I think like meditating is really beneficial for, your emotional, mental health.
Hmm.
Even going for a walk, there's always something that you can do kind of regardless of where you're based. You could read a book, you could listen to something. There's got to be
Hmm.
something out there, that can help. Like someone said to me, which I've always
Hmm.
kind of remembered, you can't pour from an empty cup. Like,
Yes.
your energy levels, you have to be at a certain kind of level, to do the things you got to do. And I think
Yes.
a lot of it's self-discipline, isn't it? Mindfulness, being self-aware, of your energy and what drains you and what doesn't drain you, if that makes sense. Whether that's people,
Yeah.
scenarios, the media. I think really being aware of that. I think that kind of probably
Yes.
connects into it as well.
Yes. And I think another thing that I'm trying to understand about what you just said is that being a little bit ruthless is important too, because a lot of times we don't take risks, even though we know we need to make that change. We don't take the risk because it becomes a risk because many people, when they want that new thing and they know the old thing is not working for them, right? Or that new situation, the old situation is not working for them for a long time, and they want to make the leap into the new situation, they think it's risky. And the connotation of that becomes like, oh no, what will I do? What will happen? So what happens a lot of times, people fixate and gauge their future based on their present, based on their past, and they are not able to fathom what good the future could bring, and they focus more on the problems and the bad and the negative energies that will come to them when they make that change because of their past experience and what they can just see. Though when they take the leap, when they're ruthless, when they say, nah, no matter what, I've set it in my heart that I want that change, then you cannot imagine where it can take you. A lot of people, when they have made that change in their life and they have, that change has been calling out to them all their lives, they have realized when they've gotten to the other end that they first were fixating on their past and present, before making that decision, and that was blocking them. And the second thing that was blocking them was that they were not able to know about the unknown. So the unknown made them scared, and so the scared part made them think they're being too risky, and so they were not able to think for themselves. So being ruthless is about thinking for yourself and going forth with that idea, without thinking what people say, what people might judge. Knowing yourself so well, being so sure within that this is so important to you that you make that change. And also the other part I was connecting to was that why people don't do it is um, they fixate too much about the present and the past, and they gauge the frequency of what could happen in the future with that. Though when we do need to make a change, as you also know, as a coach, is that we need to just make that leap, knowing in our hearts and our intention that this is going to be something that's going to move us forward. And what's the point of living if we are not going to change and evolve?
Yeah, I think they're excellent points. And when you're talking about change and what people focus on, like if people focus on, for example, the past, their energy is going somewhere else and it's not in the present moment. And we're only ever present in the present moment, really. But people's
Yes.
emotional states or mindset might be somewhere else. And that could
Mm,
be, we take, our beliefs from experiences. And if people, like
mm,
you said, have had, negative experiences, that might distort their image of themselves from that
mm,
experience. So then
mm,
if an opportunity comes up for them in the present moment, because
mm,
they had a negative experience in the past or negative experiences build up, they've painted this picture that that's horrible or they're not good enough or whatever it is. And that can be from childhood, that can be, through our lives. But like you said, people are either, excuse me, if people are in the past, if you're in the past, you're not going to be making decisions that are coming up for you in the present moment. Or if you're too far ahead in the future, like,
yeah.
like I said, accepting change. And
Mm,
I think that's what people suffer with sometimes, because
mm,
we paint a picture of this is how things are, but
yeah.
they're not actually how things are. It's just what we've absorbed.
Mm, mm. And I said people love to paint pictures. We love to paint pictures. I think it's very easy to come to this place of working within so much. Like we can be working within ourselves and then come to a point like, oh, things are not working out for us, and feeling that little bit of depression. That is why these works such as affirmations, journaling, going out for a walk, as you said, listening to good music, taking those 5 minutes to meditate, writing a gratitude diary, having these little points and moments in your life, or starting your days with these moments with yourself, is so important because it helps us paint that picture better, as you were saying. So if in the past we have been looking at what is happening in our present and past and just gauging all our situation based on what has not worked out for us, of course our mind will find it harder to paint a picture that is positive. But if we put these practices, just as I mentioned before, the practices of mindfulness, of these good habits that we can develop in our lives, these then help us paint a better picture, and subconsciously, then we're able to stay in that frequency, in that vibration, where then we can put ourselves in that situation and still think positively and still think that we can take care of ourselves. We can put ourselves see ourselves in a space where things are not working for ourselves, and still be able to put ourselves into this little energy bubble and know that everything's going to be okay. And that doesn't happen by itself. It doesn't happen overnight. As I said, practices such as meditation, gratitude diaries, journaling, walking, doing everything that makes your heart sing, like even singing, right? Having those little moments in your day where you are working at your inner health, not just the body health, but the mind health, right? The mental health is very important. And we think that, oh, we're fine, everything's working out fine in our lives, and then something goes, you know, out of whack, which is life. Life always brings us to situations that are challenging. And if we are not up to date with our own feelings, with our own emotions, with our own mind, what's happening within it, then that situation can seem even bigger than what it is because of our internal screen, the way it's looking at it, the way it's painting the picture.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I think, like you said, it's really going within and doing those small things for yourself, isn't it? And
Yes.
like journaling, writing gratitude list, going for
Mm.
walks, all these things come together, even if, things might not be going as good as you want them to be, but there are things that you can do for yourself and to help in that scenario, or and it's a decision that we have to make, isn't it? People have a choice to do that. But like, I know like gratitude is a very good exercise, and I do that quite a lot, and it makes me feel more grounded and present.
Mm.
But ultimately, we have to do these things for ourselves, and by doing those things for yourselves, you get to know yourself more. You get to look within, really, and I think that's where it all kind of starts, isn't it? Sometimes we're so focused out there, but we have to kind of reel back and kind of come back to ourselves and really get to know ourselves and ask ourselves, what am I
Yes.
grateful for? What things do I want in my life? Um, we sometimes we have to ask ourselves uncomfortable questions. We might have to accept certain things, and it's like life and growth. It's all a process, isn't it? It's we're always learning new things about ourselves, and I think if people don't want to do that, they might not be ready to. But that's life, isn't it? As you mentioned, doing a gratitude list and mindfulness and journaling, it really kind of gives you that clarity on things that you do want and the things that you don't really. I think it's almost like putting a magnifying glass on yourself.
Yes. Yes. That's beautifully said. You get to look at, when you do a gratitude diary, one of the first things that happens is you tend to look at the things that you do have rather than what you don't have. And that's amazing because there could be a whole lot of things that you don't have, with your brain saying, I don't have this, I want that, I want this, desire this, blah, blah. But just to focus on the energy with what you do have sets you in the space of like having, and that's coming from a non-resistant space, that's coming from a space of allowing the good energy, that's coming from a space of fulfillment, that's coming from a space of feeling this high vibration of I got this, right? And then that's the idea behind this gratitude. One of the ideas is that when you focus on, as you said, the good that you have, the stuff that you got, then all the things that you do desire start coming to you because you open this portal, this vibrational level within you. Because as human beings, we are vibrations, we are frequencies, right? And we've talked about this before. So without going too deeply into that, I can say to you that once you open up your channel, once you open up your existence, once you open up yourself to this energetic way of looking at life where you have things, that energy, that frequency goes into the universe. It affects everybody you meet. It affects every person that exists on this planet because our energies affect other people. And so you're not just doing it for yourself, the gratitude, you're doing it for everyone else. Just I felt on the days that I felt most grateful, I've gone for a walk and I felt like saying hello to that neighbor, or like just looking at my fridge if there's like extra cupcakes there, just and going and dropping them off to my neighbor. It sets your heartbeat onto this beat. It sets you on this level of vibration where you want to do good in the world, even if it's going to take ages. You don't know when you're going to do it. Maybe it's going to be that one day when you can do that big good, but you can start here. You can start right now doing the good in the world, and it starts with that good feeling inside, and gratitude is super powerful. And the second thing really powerful is affirmations. I think affirmations people take for granted, and I've heard lately people saying things like, oh, affirmations don't work and blah blah blah. I think when people tend to look at good things as becoming too technical to work, to happen, to work for you, such as, oh, affirmations don't work because they're probably waiting for magic to happen. And affirmations are not magic. What affirmations are is mindset training tools. What they do is that, for me, I can speak for me, as I always say, is that when you affirm to yourself, let's say, I am enough, it makes your body, mind, and soul come to this little point of alignment where you feel enoughness in your cells, in your body, in your mind, in your soul. So much so that you uplift yourself to a vibrational feeling of enoughness, even though around you people are saying, you are not good enough, you are bad. You can hold yourself in that. But that doesn't happen overnight, as I've said before. It is a habit of every day saying to yourself these good words of affirming. Basically, I could say it's reaffirming to yourself what your soul already knows, because we know that we are loved, we are enough, but we forget it along the way. As we know, as souls, we know this. So it's reminding yourself of what we have forgotten along the way, because living as the human beings that we are and having the spiritual experience that we are, it's very easy to get deviated to what someone else tells us about what they think of us, right? Now, it's not living in this this overstated image of ourselves of like, oh, we are the best. No, it's just, if a person, let me tell you one thing, if a person can think of a negative thought and that can embed in them so much that they can get depressed, that they can feel suicidal, that a negative thought such as I am bad can internalize inside a human so much that they can pick up something and try to self-harm themselves, then if a negative thought can affect us so much, a negative affirmation that we create for ourselves can affect us so much, why are we not looking at the fact that how a positive affirmation can affect us? Why are we underestimating the fact that a positive way of saying something to ourselves that no, we are not bad. So what is an affirmation for that? I am enough. I am worthy. I'm good. I'm unconditional love. I am, I'm loved, as I've said before. I am blessed. Saying this can literally affect your cells. Your cells are listening, and there's been study about it. Bruce Lipton has talked about it in his documentaries. Everyone is talking about these days. There are a lot of conversations about how our cells listen to us. Then why cannot we just, basically it's about surrender. As human beings, we don't surrender, we don't allow, we don't receive. We think we have to think about things technically. Oh, okay, this is good for me, but let me see how good this is for me, right? Why cannot we just surrender, receive, and let that good thing, such as an affirmation, come to us and see how it goes? For me, it worked I started with the 21 days. So it has to be a consistent practice for it to work, to become a habit, to become a subconscious thought, to become something that affects us on a vibration level.
Wow, it's so true, and I think like it's very, very deep, isn't it? There's so many layers to it, and like what you're saying, the affirmations that we say to ourselves, and the intentions that we put out there into the universe, in our mindset, it all, like our physical, our emotional responses all kind of start within our mind.
Mm.
And the power of our minds, the power of our thoughts, the things that we think about ourselves and the things that we generally think are emitting vibrations. And
Yes.
we're able to, change ourselves through our thoughts. Like sometimes you see people who are well or healthy, sometimes have suppressed emotions, or then they might think negatively about themselves. It just shows you how powerful we are as human beings and the power of our minds and our thoughts and energy. And like you said before, people, you mentioned like self-harm, and you think, some things that people do. And sometimes people might already have a lot of different things going on, but they're not talking about it. And I think talking about it's, like releasing that tap almost, or sharing things. And sometimes it might they might be going into a situation, and you see this all the time. People might think something bad about themselves, or something might happen which causes that person to think something negative, and then they go and do something really bad, probably to someone else or to themselves or whatever. But it's that situation is they've just taken like negative feedback from the situation, which isn't what it is. But they've already got XYZ amount of things going on. And I think we see that throughout life. People do things or things
Mm.
happen, and it's that build up. But like you said, if you can practice mindfulness, if you can do gratitude lists, if you can go for walks, if you can have that self care for yourself, it kind of lightens that load, so to speak, and probably reduces the chances of that happening. It's
Yes.
like if I don't know if you find it when you're driving. Sometimes if I'm driving, if I've had a hard day or other things have happened, and then I'm driving and there's traffic. Sometimes in myself, like that traffic could probably trigger me to feel a certain way because I want to get home quicker. Or
Yes.
so a lot of it's like you said, it all starts in your mind. Especially, I think the words that we say to ourselves in the morning is a big thing. Sometimes it can domino throughout the day, or the things that we look at on the news or social media or whatever. Um,
Mm.
it all kind of ties in together, doesn't it? Really, what you're saying.
Yes, it does. And we tend to underestimate the power of all what we're talking about right now. Not we, but people tend to think, I think, that all of this is okay. So meditate, gratitude. Till you don't do it, you don't realize the power of it. So I would really encourage people to at least sit down early in the morning and try to write 5 things they're grateful for and see how
Mm.
that works for them. Try it for, let's say, a week. I'm not going to go into the 21 days that I used to preach before, but I would say just try for a week and see how that affects you. What's happening is that the bigger problems that people are facing in relationships, and let's just talk about relationships where
Yeah.
people don't talk to each other, right? We live in a world where two people could be in an elevator and they could be feelings for each other, but because we live in this formal world where you can't start a conversation with things like, maybe the guy wants to say to the girl, I want to say something to you, but I don't know how to say it because you're so beautiful that I don't know how to, word it. Maybe that's his internal thought while he's standing next to her. But he would start up the conversation with like, oh, nice weather. And she'll be like, yeah, it's been a good day. It's been raining the past few days, but yeah, nice weather. And the elevator would open up and she'll say, thank you, have a good day. And he'll say, good day. And he'll go his way, she'll go his way. We live in a world where we can't say exactly how we're feeling. Imagine how vulnerable that man would be standing in front of her if he says, I do want to say something to you, but I don't know how to word it. You're just so beautiful, and I'm just saying it very honestly. He's putting himself out there, he's being vulnerable, and saying exactly how he feels. Now, if that girl is connected within and she's someone who works at herself, someone who is a decent human being, she would appreciate that vulnerability. She will definitely at least smile when he talks to her like that, or think about it after he said that to her. That energy transmission was pure, honest, neutral, and it was on a space of vulnerability where two people were able to say exactly how they felt, or one person said it and the other felt it, right? What I'm trying to get at is, in relationships, what's happening now is, on a broader level, is that whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, whether it's whatever gender, because I'm not putting it in any gender roles, or husbands and wives and wherever, I think people have stopped communicating with each other. People have stopped talking to each other. Like, they have become, over time, people who have separate thoughts, separate thinking, and it's become okay. People hang out with other couples or other friends, and everybody's just like, oh, I had work and I had this, and let's just talk about fun things. And people tend to talk about these internal thoughts, those triggers you were talking about, that just stay inside, and they wait for that moment of just coming out, like a burst, or that big argument that people tend to have. I think it all starts with not communicating how you feel. And I've been looking into this. There is someone I follow online, I can't remember his name, but he was talking about that people have relationships, but it's like living in war zones, because everyone has their little battleship, separate battleship, and their little army. And like, the moment something bad happens, the other, they're at each other as two armies. It was that bad. He made it look at that bad. But you see, I'm coming back to the idea of what we're talking about as gratitude, journaling, and all these mindful habits. What it does is that it prepares us for anything in life, whether it's work relationships, whether it's personal relationships, whether it's getting to know ourselves so that we can be better in relationships, because it starts over here, right? That communication I was talking about can only start when we start the communication within ourselves, when we start to get to know who we are. When it hit me the day I had my spiritual awakening, which must be like a third or fourth spiritual awakening in my life, but this time I was aware to it. Like, I was aware about it. I knew this was happening. I could see it, right? And when it happened for me, I was like, who are you? Whose body are you in? Right? And I've said this before, but it still hits me. Like, that's how it started, when I was able to put myself outside this person who talks and says, I know everything, I'm the best, or like, I know better than the other. My ego operating at this level of like havoc, not knowing whether it's ego, whether it's hurt feelings, whether it's pain, whether it's, I was in this blur sort of chaotic self. I came out of my chaotic self and so thought to myself, do you even know how to talk to yourself? Do you know how to communicate with yourself? Like, who is Saliha, right? So yeah, it starts with, it definitely, the broader communication, or even having fun in our lives, or having those fruitful, fulfilling relationships. It starts with this idea of communicating with yourself. And that is all under self-love, mindfulness. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it all interlinks into one, doesn't it, really? I think,
Mm.
self-love's a very broad spectrum, and it ties into relationships. I think it ties into activities. I think it ties into energy, mindset, many areas. And I think, like, you touched on a good point there with, relationships. And, the relationship that we have with ourselves is
Mm.
ultimately how we do relationship with other people. If we
Yes.
like ourselves, we listen to ourselves, other people are going to pick up on your energy. if
Yes.
you're in a good place emotionally. If you don't like yourself, if people don't like themselves and they're, that energy is negative, people are going to pick up on that. But like, deeper point of it is, that self-love and the relationship that we have with ourselves. We take that into relationships.
Mm,
We, if we're not listening to ourselves and communicating with ourselves in the right way, how the hell are we going to communicate with someone else we're in a relationship with?
mm,
And sometimes, when you go into a relationship, possibly
yes.
like a new relationship, you've got, as you know, being in like marriage or relationship, you're two people and you kind of come together, but you're still two people, but you kind of become one in some way. And it's like this kind of, you know, it's probably different if you live with somebody, but
Mm,
even if you live with somebody, I suppose you have your own space and then you do your own thing.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
a lot of communication is key, isn't it? Really, and you have to really go to a mindful place because in relationships, if people aren't communicating things clearly, they might be misinterpreted. Um, if you want to communicate as and when, that can probably cause certain emotional responses. So you can see why self love and being okay.
Mm, yes.
So I
Yeah.
just broke up. Sorry, the
Yeah, you
connection
broke
went
up a
then.
bit.
Okay,
Yes.
it's back now.
Mm,
But yeah, what I was saying, it's important to be able to communicate clearly in a
mm,
relationship and be okay on
mm,
ourselves. Um,
mm,
I think that's where relationships might have issues sometimes. Through communication, we all make mistakes, but I think it's being accountable, isn't it, for where we are at and what's going on. And you mentioned sometimes people talk about work or certain things which don't have much depth to it. People talking about things and do you know what I mean? People talk. I find that people sometimes talk about things that have no actual meaning or weight to it. And I think like you have to be mindful of that, don't you? You have to ultimately be yourself. And sometimes we talk and we say things for the kind of the sake of it. But if you're doing that for a certain period of time, it can get quite draining.
that's it. That's it. And I think it's coming to that point of when people hold grudges, how can you? I mean, the part about grudges which I don't like is when how can the other person that you're holding a grudge against know when you held that grudge, right? For instance, a person is telling the other person, you don't know what you did to me, and being mean to them. You need to actually come out with what was that grudge that you've been holding on for so long, right? um for instance, if two people are having an argument and one person is saying, you did this, you did that, and the other person's like, how long have you been holding on to those feelings and emotions, right? um it's not fair on the other person when you hold a grudge. It's best to say things there and then when you feel them. If you didn't like something, say it then. But if you hold that grudge, it's not good for you also, because you're holding on to a negative, heavy, energetic feeling. Plus, the other person doesn't know what you didn't like, and they just keep you seeing in this temper, sort of stomping through the room and all that. You know how people show their ego, like, you did this to me, but I'll not tell you what you did to me. Withholding that information, but holding on to that grudge. I find it very interesting when people do that. I just came across this recently. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a point here that it doesn't help holding on to grudges. It helps. What helps is to say things there and then when you don't like them. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. I think sometimes it's almost like probably passive aggressive. I think if people sometimes hold a grudge about something, they might not
Mm,
communicate, or they might communicate in a certain way.
mm,
And I think grudges can come down to jealousy, envy, maybe if things have happened in the past, but
mm,
it's not really worth carrying that, really, when you think about
mm, mm,
the relief people get if they move on from that or they shift that. It
mm,
Sometimes it can take a lot to do that. It takes a lot
mm.
of strength to do that. It
Yes,
takes a lot of strength to say sorry or apologize, but you rise above it. And I think at the end of the day, you don't want regrets, because sometimes time might go on because someone's held a grudge against somebody or something. And people miss out on experiences if they haven't spoken to that person for XYZ amount of time. But
yeah.
it can't be healthy carrying grudges. I mean, especially if people have more than one.
That's it. That's it. I've seen people carrying grudges in families, and they have become these points of not forgiving the other family because it goes on from generation to generation. We don't talk to that. Let's say we don't talk to that aunt because she did this to the family in, let's say, 1950s. So
Mm,
her children's children, you don't talk to. They don't talk to each other, and then their kids don't talk to each other. It becomes like a very negative, unforgiving sort of like, I've got the power to forgive you or to set this thing
mm.
into, you know, what I'm trying to say is comes from a fear-based energy. It doesn't come from a love-based energy. It comes from ego. It comes from wanting to feel powerful, feeling better than the other. So you have some power on the other person. I think it's very how do you say it?
Yeah, narcissistic,
Narcissistic. Yeah.
narcissistic.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's a way of just putting, as you said, jealousy as well. It's people do get triggered by jealousy, so they want the other person to feel smaller
mm.
because they feel that they need to feel small. They want
Yeah,
themselves to
yeah,
feel bigger, so they want them to feel smaller. I think it's a lot about power plays, just like what's happening in the world right now. With
yeah,
I can't believe there's a war taking place in 2022. it's
yeah.
it's
It's
it's it's uncomprehendable that is still happening. It's
yeah,
power play.
yeah, definitely, and it is pretty nuts. But like you said, things have been happening for years and years and years over time in different times. I think this
Mm,
is just like a modern era. And if you trace it back, it's no different to like, I mean, I'm not a big person of history, but like Stalingrad and the Stalin and how he was. It's like sometimes
mm,
history kind of repeats itself in some way. Some people,
mm.
you're always going to probably get someone who's like that. Um,
Yeah,
but that's a lower playing field, if that makes sense. It's very obvious
yeah.
if someone's
Mm,
playing on that string,
mm.
so to speak. It's very obvious, the very tunnel driven kind of mentality,
Yes,
and acting from
yes.
insecurity and not
Mm,
strength. And you see that, I think, sometimes, like you said, about grudges in life with people in success. Sometimes people, like, if I see somebody who's got something that's very good, whether that's financially or a car or whatever, or certain status, for me, I I'm glad for them. I'm happy for them. Whereas some people might have a grudge and go, "Oh, well, look at them," And people, I think,
yeah.
in today's life have a lot of grudges based on people's success. But if you have a grudge on someone's success, you're not going to be able to attract that for yourself,
Hmm.
because it's how the universe works, isn't it? You have to allow people and be happy for them to welcome
Happy
that
for
into
them.
your life.
That's it. That's it. We walk around always looking at what other people have. It, as you said, it makes us look at things that we don't have. And we need to stop doing that. I think it's been happening for a long time now that people look at, you can look at somebody else with a car or a house and feel like, oh, I need to have it. Actually, the media works like that. All these
Mm.
reality TV programs that we watch are all about, oh, they got this big mansion. Oh, they got this big car. Oh, look at that girl. She's got the longest eyelashes, right? And it makes people who don't have self-worth within feel more sulky, feel more bad, make them feel more worse rather than give them any uplifting feeling. And then the media operates on that energy of more of the collective feeling, low energy feelings, and giving them this heightened sense of feeling through those programs. Because in a way, watching those reality TV programs where there's a lot of glamour and glitter and perfection, people, let's say a woman who is, let's say, above her weight that she needs wants in life, and she's feeling low self-worth, and she's sitting at home and sulking, she would watch that show and feel like she is able to be in a happy place because she's watching that show with these beautiful women. But at the same time, a very opposite energy is working within her, that when she will be all alone by herself, she might look herself in the mirror and feel like, why am I not as pretty as that woman? Why don't I have eyelashes as long as her, or something like that. So it's very tricky. They play with our feelings, they play with our emotions. But again, coming back to self-love, if we worked at our self-worth, we would watch a program like that and take it as entertainment and be active audiences rather than passive audiences, as they say, and watch actively and be able to pinpoint how this was produced or how this was made, for what kind of a demographic or what kind of an audience, and still enjoy it with popcorn or a drink or sitting next to a friend, right? So we need to become active absorbers, not absorbers, observers, active observers of what we watch as well. And when we can only do these things when we know ourselves better.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. I think, like it all comes down to, like you said, when we know ourselves better and getting to know yourself and really honing in on what's right for you, and the language that we're speaking to ourselves and the way we see the world. I think it all kind of ties in together, and it's so many layers to it, isn't it? Going within, getting to know ourselves, and really discovering who we are and the things that we want in our lives, and how we can, I think, starting point, what is it, where are we at, what, where's our energy, and what things do we need to do for ourselves to feel our best selves, really. And
And being okay with it, being okay with change, being okay
mm,
with this feeling of wanting to change, internalizing it to a level that you don't have to even talk about it. You can just
mm,
be it.
yeah,
Even though you can't see it happening, you can be it.
yeah, definitely. And I think, like you said, a big thing is that vulnerability and going into that vulnerable place. It's okay to go to that vulnerable place. And I think that's a really good thing that you mentioned with the elevator situation. And there's
Yes.
so many people out there who might be working with someone, or there's someone that they like, but they're not telling that person how they really feel deep down.
Yeah.
Then there's
Yeah.
an
And see that
opportunity
like
there.
little, I actually heard, I'll send you the name of the guy. I think it's Kevin Level 11.
Mm, yeah.
He's amazing. He used to be a comedian, then he became a Hollywood actor, and now he's just doing all of this, talking about spirituality and mindset. And he's amazing. He says, like, I never prepare what I'm going to say. And he said, why? The host said, why? He's like, because then it would seem to me as if I prepared something to gain something from you or from this. And then he came to this elevator story. It is his story. And he tells us as an example that how we in life, we can't even, like, in terms of communicating, in terms of just being the real selves, we cannot even see ourselves being vulnerable with another human being. What has happened to us, we cannot just, I think the kind of person I am vulnerable, but I think it's harder for guys to be vulnerable. And that's why he put it in a story where the guy was trying to be vulnerable with the girl, which is still a very pertinent sort of theme happening in our society, even though gender roles have changed and things have grown and we know ourselves better. It still happens, right? I've been told, oh, you're laughing too much in a restaurant. I've been told, uh, you know, um, you can't cry in public. Though I have, getting off trains when I was younger, I used to cry. I didn't care what people said. I've been open with my emotions. So I think vulnerability starts with getting to know your emotions. I think whether you're a boy or a girl.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And you mentioned someone said to you, "Oh, you're laughing too much." I mean, I don't think there's any such thing as how can you be laughing too much? There's no such thing as laughing too much. As
Oh, you got to see
you
me.
can't. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, like in general,
Yeah.
like you can't put a cap on it. You can't put a lid on it. It's like saying you're smiling too much. Like, okay, it depends what context. If
Well,
you're,
I've had that too.
I mean, if you're looking at a stranger and you're
The too
smiling at them,
muchness.
yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're with someone you know, if someone's looking at you don't know, and you start smiling at them, they're perceiving that as something else they might not know. But being with someone that you love or doing something, I don't think you can kind of put a cap on that. It's not fair
Mm.
to. And I think, like you said, people, I think, need to be vulnerable and to go. There's a lot of strength in being vulnerable. And I think a big thing that I'm sure you can relate to, or what I found in being vulnerable, is podcasting. There's a sense of vulnerability in doing this,
Yes.
especially starting out. I mean, when we first chatted, we was on audio, and there's a vulnerability part to that. Speaking on audio, and we didn't really know each other. We just kind of connected online on social media and went into a podcast. There's a sense of vulnerability there where you're going into on there and talking to somebody.
Mm.
Even if you know them a little
Mm.
bit, there might be vulnerability in certain topics or areas.
Yes.
And then you think about going on camera, and then you think about going on a live stream or someone
Oh,
else's
wow.
podcast.
Oh,
There's
wow.
levels of
Yes.
vulnerability with that. Even now, if you've been doing it for a while and you go on to
Yes.
something, but
No, it's
you get,
crazy.
yeah,
It's
you
the
get
way you
comfortable with it.
just said it. I remember I hated, I was at a space in my time in my life where I didn't know what to say, and I didn't know. I used to get on the camera and then get off the camera. I used to look at my face and go like, I was like that just back in, just before our podcast, the first podcast. I was trying to come on camera. I remember I couldn't see myself. And so I started saying, okay, at least start at a vocal level, start being vulnerable at a vocal level. And I think that's when I thought about podcasting. And then I spoke to you on your podcast the first time. And wow, like you're so right. The the vulnerability that starts from just saying authentically how you feel, going to feel about something, your emotions, and what you actually went through is like a catharsis. It's and it's powerful.
Mm.
But
Yeah, yeah,
it was so new when it started. It's like, wow, am I doing this? Like, where is this coming from? This voice,
yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think podcasting and talking to people, you go to that vulnerable place, and you know communicating with different people makes you think about, yourself and your own life, and you reflect and you learn, I think, things by talking to people, by communicating, by listening,
Mm,
listen to yourself. It it kind of really opens up the space of awareness, doesn't it, really?
mm, mm, mm.
But
Awareness,
I
definitely.
I'm super grateful, to be your
Yes,
friend, and that we're
yeah,
able to do this and we're able to touch base.
yes.
And I really love, how you've grown and everything that you've done, and the content that you create, and seeing, you grow in that and shift. And I see your posts, and they kind of really light, really, it's almost like a bright light, almost, you know what I mean? And like a,
Oh, thank you. I
so
see you too. I see all your work. I see everything that you put out. And I always send you my best wishes and my prayers and my blessings, because that's what we are. We're all these like little light bulbs, and
mm,
we need to give each other this energy so that we keep lighting up. Um,
yeah,
it's very I mean, we keep putting all these posts and everything, and the intention is the same. We
mm,
both want to elevate humanity from its suffering. We both want to um, change the world. We want to help people get to know themselves. And I think the more of us put our hands together like this,
mm,
we're going to make that a little change happen in the world.
yeah,
So I love that
yeah,
about you. Yes.
yeah, most definitely. And same to you as well. And
Mm,
I think, it's so true, isn't it? Everyone kind of working together and coming together, does make
mm,
some dent in the world,
mm.
in a positive
Yes.
way. And where is there anything else that you want to touch on? Is there anything else you want
Yeah,
to
that's
mention?
all good. We
Um,
love this. I think it's been a very good conversation.
yeah, it's been awesome. It's been awesome. And where
Yeah.
where can we find your content, social media, that kind of thing?
Instagram, just get my Instagram handle, which is the Untold Story Told on Instagram, just one word, and people can contact me on that. Definitely. And yeah, message me any questions, anything you have, you can message me on that. Yes.
Yeah, no, awesome. But it's been a
Yes.
pleasure chatting with you again, and I wish you all the best in everything you're doing. I look forward to next time.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor and a privilege being on the podcast again. And it started from here, and it's going to restart again from this from a podcast with you, because this is my first podcast for the year. I've been on
Mm,
holiday and a vacation, you could say,
yeah,
and now I'm back. So I'm 100% sure that starting with you is gonna like set me off like Sonic.
yeah. Back in the groove.
Yeah, yeah. I thought if I say the Flash, that you wouldn't really click with that.
Yeah. Flash the
It's
DC character, no?
yeah, too
Flash
much the
Gordon.
80s. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right then. Thank you
Yeah,
so
yeah.
much, Adam.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you. Take you.
Yes.
Bye bye.